This is to celebrate the 80th birthday of the Harbour, and I haven't flown it for 80 years, but I've flown it for 62 years. I don't know that needed a clap. And Dave asked me, was I the most experienced harbour pilot in the country, but I don't think that would be true, but I'm probably the longest lived at this stage. So I'll just tell you a little bit about some of my experiences in the harbour, without telling you too much about the aeroplane, and then I want to tell you in the end about the project that we're moving on to, the thing that's involving me the most in New Zealand Warbirds. You know, noisy aeroplanes shouldn't be allowed on airports, should they? They spoil the talk. When I joined the Air Force in 1959, I had a private pilot's licence which had all been done on Tiger Moths. And when I got the first flight in the harbour, with an instructor of course, and the throttle was open, my initial impression on takeoff was a mad bull elephant had got loose. Because compared with the Tiger Moth, it was a real roaring beast. So that was my initial impression. And out of interest, the first flight I did in the harbour was in NZ 1023. I don't know where that's got to now, but very shortly afterwards, I did a flight in NZ 1057, which you would have seen this morning, parked out here somewhere. So that's a warbird aeroplane, and I got fairly closely associated with that aeroplane along the way. In fact, can you give us the next slide? That's just my wing scores, fellas. There you go, I got a picture of 1057, so you know what I'm talking about. In that aeroplane, in fact, I flew our wings course aerobatic competition, and the aeroplane was so good it allowed me to win. And then a few days later I flew it again in our graduation wings course flight pass. So I've got fond memories of that aeroplane. I then, having done my wings, disappeared into the jet world for about 5 years in the Air Force. And when I came back, it was to go to Central Flying School to become a Harbour instructor. Can you give us another one? Oh, those were the guys who were learning to be instructors with me. Out of interest, my very first flight, which was a rear seat for Mill, because as an instructor you had to learn how to fly the aeroplane from the rear seat with some student in the front who probably was trying hard to kill you. And I did that first flight in NZ 1092. So, give us another picture, Dave. Oh, I'll leave that on there. NZ 1092 is that one. And that aeroplane is still here. It's the aeroplane the harbour I fly the most. It belongs to a chap called Colin Rogers. And shortly after that, I did an instructor training flight in NZ 1098, which is the aeroplane that Ace and I flew this morning at the flight past. Now, I just want to tell you a bit about my memories of flying the harbour. There are good memories, bad memories, memories of challenges. So just say a few of them. One of the things I remember about Christchurch is that the temperature, the climate in Christchurch changes like this, whereas Auckland sort of travels along in the middle. So at this stage, as a budding new instructor, I was living in Riccarton, and to get to Wickham Airport each morning, you had to move south. And of course I had to go on the bike because I had no money. So there was always a southerly wind in the morning on the way. So you had a headwind and froze to death. And by the time you came home at night, the wind had gone norwesterly, so you were pushing into this hot nor'wester. my memories of Christchurch. And I remember one of the things I really hated was teaching new students how to start the harbour. They'd done all the bookwork and you got them in the cockpit and you had to run them through a start the first time. And of course all the starting controls were in the front, the instructor was in the back. So you had to stand on the wing and lean over the side of the cockpit and detail what you wanted them to do. And of course when they got it started, the wind would come back off the prop and you'd be hanging on the side there, and they were always told southerlies. So you froze to death standing on the wing, trying to teach these young fellas how to start an aeroplane. So that's an unpleasant memory. The opposite, of course, was hot nor'westers when it got rough as guts around Wigram when you were trying to fly the harbours. And you can bet your boots that those would be the days that you had to teach 3 students in a row spinning. So you'd clamber on up through all this rough weather to 9,000 feet, get the aeroplane up to a spin, talk it down, do it 3 or 4 times, then your hour was finished, you go back, turn around and get the next student. And I remember one particular occasion when it was not a very pleasant day. By the time I got 2/3 of the way through teaching my second student, I knew that if we did another spin, I was going to disgrace myself. So the only option was to throw the idle cut-off and stop his engine so that he was committed to do a forced landing practice. So that was always a good test for students. So they went on down, flew a forced landing practice, and then I said, take me back to Wigram, and then I catch the 3rd sortie. Yeah. As a student though, the things I probably hated most were under the hood, instrument flying. You got on the front seat of the harbour with the instructor behind, you pulled the instrument hood over your head so you couldn't see anything outside, and away you went. And we did our instrument rating tests on the radio range, which was listening to dit-dars and dar-dits to know where you were and to find your way back down to the ground. We did a thing called loss procedure, where you had to lock yourself under the hood, having caged your direction indicator, and the instructor would fly you somewhere for about 20 minutes, and then he'd say, open the hood, and you come out from underneath, and he'd say, figure out where you are and take me back to Wigram. So you had to figure out where you were, estimate a course and time, and then you close the hood over again and you flew back on instruments. And I remember the first time I did that when he said, all right, come out now. There was no sign of Wigram in any direction. So we did that one again. And spin recovery under the hood was never much fun. Coming on down, rotating while it was pointed out to you how the aeroplane was yawing, look for this on your turning bank indicator, look at the airspeed, all this sort of stuff, the aeroplane's going round and round, and you can't see out, and you just got this awful uncomfortable feeling sitting inside. So I consider that unpleasant, but some people have to put up with. Good things though, aerobatics in the clear, formation aerobatics I love. That group of guys there includes me, and that was the Central Flying School Harvard Aerobatic Team in 1965. We flew shows around the country from time to time. And there we go, pulling up into a loop, and we've all signed these things, so that one's me. That was all good fun, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the odd sort of thing I was shown, like we were told you're not allowed to do aerobatics at night, but everyone had to go at it. And you get the right sort of night, you go out over Lake Ellesmere and pull the aeroplane up and do a stall turn. When you got to the top of the stall turn and the engine started to snuff out, the lighting around you was tremendous. The flames and the light, wonderful sight, something you never forget. Very good memory. was challenging. If they say if you learn to fly hard from the back seat, and you're confident from the back seat, then you're ready to fly any of the World War II fighters, because you're going to have a similar sort of view up front. And this is particularly so at night. And night operations, teaching students, were always interesting because the grass at Wigram had just a flare path, flares lived on either side. And when if you were taking off in that direction, you're flying up here and you can see all the flares, that's fine. It came your turn to go, you turn onto the runway, and from the back seat, all you could see was one flare on this side, one flare on that side. And you had to get used to that and hope that the student could keep the directional control good for the initial part of the takeoff. I had one particular experience which will always stick in my mind, teaching a student at night. I won't give you his name, but I know who he was. A perfectly fine fellow. We used to do two consecutive details of night flying, and the aeroplane would come back from the first one, and we'd do a changeover of instructor and pupil, and leave the engine running while we did it, and then out you go, do the second one. So on this particular night, the aeroplane came in, it was dark. I said to the student, often said the students changed while the instructor, well, in fact it wasn't an instructor, this one being a solo student. The students changed over and got themselves settled, and then it got my turn, and I got on the back of the aeroplane, and I said to young Wally, okay, taxi me up. So we went out, and we're doing circuits. He'd done a couple of night details. He was getting okay. So we went round and round the circuit, did half a dozen touch and goes. He was doing so well that I thought, it's time I send him solo. So I said, okay, well, before I send you solo, I better do one for myself, just for practice. I have control. So this was just above the ground as we went round. I had control, I said. I reached down, no control column on the aeroplane. I got it in the dark. The control column comes out of its stowage and goes into a little frame on the left-hand side of the cockpit. And that's where it had been for the whole dual flight, so I wasn't in much of a situation to take over. So I said, I have control, realised there was no toll there, and said, no, change my mind, you have control. So when he landed, I sent him solo because I figured he'd done pretty well at that stage of the game without killing him. Not much more to say, really. You probably heard the aeroplane has a great potential to ground loop if you get it all wrong. They say there are two sorts of Harvard pilots, those who have done a ground loop and those who are going to. I'm waiting for mine. When I came away from instructing at Wigram, I guess I had enough, and I said to my wife, I don't care if I don't ever put my house into one of those things again. She always reminds me of that, but here I am still doing it at this stage of the game. That's 92, as it was when I first flew in the Air Force. Give us the next picture, Dave. And then a team of guys bought it. It was the first warbird aeroplane, and it got painted up in those camouflage colours, WAR. That's 92. Give us the next one. And that's its current colour scheme. So it's been changed quite a bit over time. Lovely aeroplane. Alright, so that's all I'm going to tell you about Harvard and my experiences of it. By and large, it's been a lot of fun. It's the aeroplane I'm most familiar with these days, and it's the one I feel happiest getting in and out of. But once upon a time, I was very happy getting in and out of an aeroplane like that. So our latest Warbirds, NZ Warbirds project is a Canberra. Now this will be for ground display only. We're never going to fly it again. For a start, we don't have any engines, so it would be hard to fly. And at this stage, we don't have the wings. The wings are down in Christchurch. But we've got the fuselage here now. That aeroplane is ex-Royal Air Force. It's a B-8 Canberra. And the Canberras that we had out here that flew at Ohakia and flew in Singapore, Borneo, Malaysia were BI-12s, basically the same aeroplane as that, but the fit of the aeroplane inside was different. Different radios, different navigation gear. It had an autopilot, our one. It was better equipped for going long distance from here to Singapore, say, where we did a lot of our operation. So we've got the fuselage here and the work has started. The fuselage is in pretty good condition. That was it arriving there. It arrived here a couple of months ago. And that's just coming off the truck. And after it arrived, we lowered it to the ground, and that's where it is now, in number 4 hangar, our number 4 hangar, which is over there. And I hope you all get to see it at some stage. We've done quite a lot of cleaning up work on the fuselage. The fuselage was inside at the Air Force Museum in Christchurch, in a back shed. It's been inside there for over 25 years, waiting for something to be done to it. Nothing did get done, so then we heard they were going to get rid of it, so we thought this is a good project for us to get involved in. The wings, unfortunately, have been outside for all those 25 plus years, so they're a bigger problem for us. But we will get them up here at some stage. Anyway, it's all of the money spent for transporting this aeroplane, transporting the wings, has been from donations from enthusiasts. We've had over 50 people who got enthusiastic in donating to the cause. And we're always looking for volunteers to help us clean and paint and all that sort of thing. So if you have any enthusiasm for anything like that, please let Warbirds know. And somewhere along the line, as we move on, we'll be calling upon you. So we'll be looking for support in the future, but that's the project, and that's the thing that sort of keeps me off the streets mostly these days. That's really all I've got to say.